Oh, hi. Didn't see you come in. Welcome back to the European Soccer Show. I should have had a cat there to stroke or something, shouldn't I? Joining me, as ever, is the indomitable Leo. Bonsoir, Leo, ça va?
Bonsoir Daniel, how are you? Comment ça va?
Oh, bon. No, I'm really good. Yes. So before we carry on with the show, I just thought maybe you'd like to tell people that you will be covering AFCON because you currently broadcast a show covering African football from Paris. Is that correct?
Yeah, is it on an African channel displayed in France and in all French-speaking countries in Africa? So if you're speaking French and want to join us on Télésud.
Or generally, if you want to know things about AFCON in the upcoming tournament, the Africa Cup of Nations, feel free to follow Leo on his social medias, which are just down there underneath his name. I have not attached mine because I despise social media. But let's speaking of which, I should probably change that. Let's look at some of the weekend's action, starting off as ever with the Premier League. And it was a bit of a conflict of quality over intensity in a lot of cases. So on Saturday, we had the unusual situation where Chelsea actually won, and yet the manager was very unhappy. So Chelsea beating Everton 2-0 before a quite unpredictable press conference from Enzo Maresca, saying he felt that last 48 hours he was not supported, the worst it's been since he's been there. But there was a goal for Cole Palmer, first one in 3 months as he came back from injury. Liverpool, they won again. Things are fine again for them, beating Brighton 2-0, a couple of goals from Hugo Ekitike. Burnley, their woes continue. That's 7 losses in a row in the Premier League. They lost at home 3-2 against Fulham. Another goal for Harry Wilson for Fulham there. And Arsenal, well, they played Wolves, and Wolves, well, they scored 3 goals. Unfortunately, 2 of them were in the wrong net. And so Arsenal won 2-1 with all goals coming from Wolves players. Then on Sunday, Manchester City somehow defeated Crystal Palace 3-0 at Palace, despite the fact Palace had more of an XG. Nottingham Forest obviously beat Spurs 3-0. That was more evident, with Spurs barely registering on the XG. In the Tyne Weir derby, the first one in the league for 13 years, something like that. And Sunderland won 1-0. And it was another own goal. Oh, that was not a good game. But again, intense. Quite fun if you weren't me. West Ham United led twice against Aston Villa, yet somehow lost 3-2 to an absolute corker with Morgan Rogers' finish. And Brentford won, Leeds United won. Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring his 4th goal in as many matches. There's a match tonight, which is Manchester United against Bournemouth. But obviously, that's a little bit later. So let's start by going back to Saturday. Have a couple of conversations. So Arsenal 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. As I mentioned, first of all, this was not a good game, was it?
No, it wasn't. And I think it's the kind of game which perfectly illustrate the dynamics of both teams, because it was a difficult victory for Arsenal with a late goal from it was an own goal, but Gabriel Jesus was on the move on the play, and it was a really important win for Arsenal in the title race. Especially given that they have left some points this past weeks. So they needed this win against the almighty Wolves. Sorry, Wolves.
Yeah. No. I mean, someone pointed out they could have added 50% total of all the points they won thus far had they earned a draw right at the death. Basically, nothing happened in this match until the 70th minute, where Bukayo Saka corner hit the post and rebounded off the goalkeeper's head, Sam Johnston, for his own goal. And then somehow, despite the fact Arsenal completely dominated without really doing much, somehow Wolves actually came back into it and scored a legitimate goal, a goal of their own through, what is his name? Arakadare. Brilliant header, directing it from short range. And then Mosquera, not Arsenal's Mosquera, Wolverhampton Wanderers Mosquera, also had an own goal in the 4th minute of stoppage time. As bad and as stodgy as Arsenal were, for once, we do have to give Wolves credit, because actually they looked incredibly organised, which is something they've not looked for a long time.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you. Do you think it can be considered as an encouraging loss for Wolves, given
There's
against,
here.
given the game we have
Yeah.
against Arsenal.
Well, I think it's just this. It's one of these contexts where a team like Wolves are probably better suited to sitting very, very deep and being very frustrating. But the problem is they would have to do that against every team, and if they play every single team, that's 19 matches, and they'll draw maybe 10, 12 of them. How many are they going to win? Is the issue. Like playing that way will never be enough to win matches.
And will they win a game?
Yes, well, I predicted.
Yeah.
We'll come on to this a bit later, but I guess for those interesting, Lee and I had a discussion a couple of weeks ago. I made a prediction that Wolves will win at Anfield. Like, why not? Liverpool are going through a strange phase, and it seems a bit right that Wolves just out of nowhere be like, yes, we'll win this one. But anyway, back to reality outside of my funny little head. It was an interesting weekend because the three teams currently in the top three of the Premier League all were very lucky in their victories. So Arsenal very fortunate in their victory. Manchester City winning 3-0 at Crystal Palace. Yes, it seems an easy scoreline. But as I said, Crystal Palace outperformed them in regards to XG. And in fact, Manchester City scored 3 goals from an XG of 1.21. So actually, they were incredibly clinical. But they're quite fortunate that Palace didn't take their chances.
Yeah, and I think that the result, the 3-0, doesn't really illustrate the game, because during the first half, I think Crystal Palace could have scored, or at least put Manchester City more in danger than they did. And then I felt that when they conceded the first goal from Haaland, once again, they fell apart, because I don't know. I felt during the second half that it was easier for Manchester City.
Yeah.
Maybe because they played at the Santiago Bernabeu in the Champions League, so maybe the legs were. It was difficult on a physical aspect, and I felt it was better during the second half. And we can note that Ryan Cherki once again provided an assist. He's now he's now leading the top assist table with Bruno Fernandes, who will be playing tonight. So that's great for him, especially since he had missed 2 months of competition.
It's quite interesting as well, because Manchester City being only 2 points behind Arsenal, but it does feel like they've been quite fortunate in a lot of their recent results domestically, as opposed to in Europe. So, for example, the 5-4 victory over Fulham was chaos. The 3-2 win over Leeds United, chaos. Whereas this one felt important that they scored the first goal, because actually they, as you described, like they were actually able to control it. As opposed to what's usually happened, which is they sort of let it slip a little bit. But speaking of the third team, Aston Villa coming behind twice to win 3-2 at West Ham United. West Ham actually scored in the first minute. I think this has been registered as the fastest goal of the season, which we've had quite a few in the last couple of weeks in the first minute. Mateus Fernandes scoring for West Ham after an error from Ezri Konsa. But then Mavropana scored an own goal. Jared Bowen retook the lead before half-time, 2-1, and then 2 Morgan Rogers goals, but the second of which was absolutely sublime. Morgan Rogers seems to be one of Aston Villa's big game players, but it seems that Aston Villa actually have quite a few of those kind of players, the type that sort of stand up and take the game by the scruff of the neck. They do seem to have quite a few of them.
Yeah, and I think they are an extremely complete team, Aston Villa. We recall last week that they hadn't scored till
first 5 matches.
Something like that, and now they have won 9 consecutive games in all competitions, losing to Liverpool, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, and when you look at the table, it's sensational to see that they are only 3 points behind Arsenal and 1 behind Manchester City, I don't think anyone could have expected that.
Well, I think as well, because it's been quite fun with the discussion about Aston Villa being in the title race, and if they continue this form, then hopefully they can be. But it does feel like I forget what the record is. I think it's 14 wins in a row. But there's a reason why it's so hard to put these runs together.
Yeah.
So surely Aston Villa will be coming to the end of this run at some point. And also, should be pointed out, they've been outperforming their XG basically since the second month of the season, and yet they still manage to keep doing it. With regards to like Morgan Rogers scoring yet another goal from outside the box. So you do expect at some point for Villa to drop off a bit. However, perhaps more importantly than them being so close to the title race is that there is a clear gap between them and that huge mess in the middle of the Premier League. So actually what they are doing is solidifying their chances for the Champions League next season.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. Aston Villa are now 4 points ahead of Chelsea, who are fourth.
5, isn't it?
5. Okay, so 5. So it's important. And if you look at their result since the start to the season, they beat both Manchester City and Arsenal. So interesting to see that they can compete in those big possible games.
But also the teams that can actually have a choice, have an impact on who does win the title, even if they don't it themselves. A word on Sunderland, who are currently 7th on 26 points after beating Newcastle in the Tyne-Wear derby. Again, not a great match, but what it was actually a lot of fun because it felt like one of those old-fashioned derbies that was more physical and noisy than actually any quality. And just a moment of freak luck won it for Sunderland in the end. Do you feel it was deserved, or it was just one of those where it just basically was a flip of a coin to see what would happen?
I got one question for you. Did you really expect more from that kind of game?
No, absolutely not. But also, it has been such a long time since anyone really experienced it. But the other being, of course, again, for those who don't know, I'm a Newcastle United fan. I think the most disappointing thing was just that it seemed like Newcastle were just bad. It doesn't seem to make much tactical sense. It didn't make sense in regards to how few tackles they won and how many 50-50s they lost, that kind of thing. So it didn't. It personally be I'm not sure Sunderland deserved to win it, but perhaps Newcastle deserved to lose it, if that makes sense. They certainly didn't do enough to win at all.
But to be honest, Newcastle scored an exceptional goal.
They did. Another beautiful header by Altamar. Again, the wrong direction.
I don't understand how it is possible because the way he puts his body was suicidal for a striker of his class.
Moving swiftly on though, before we clock off from the Premier League, looking at the bottom of the table, obviously Wolves are there. Hi Wolves, all the way down there. But word on Burnley, because we've spoken about this recently. That's now 7 losses in a row in the Premier League. There is now 6 points between them and Leeds United in 17th, so that's 6 points from safety. It does feel like Burnley, if they're thinking short term about trying to stay in the league, it does feel like they're going to make a change soon because there's not much evidence of them changing the format, is there?
Yeah, I think you're right. The only thing for them is that there are 6 points behind Leeds, who are the first team who are guaranteed to stay in the Premier League, and only 3 behind West Ham. But I think they need change because I see West Ham having a better side than Burnley. We will need to see how Leeds. If Leeds will continue their streak. You've mentioned Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's been really great this past 4 weeks after having a difficult year, both at Everton and now at Leeds United. And his goals are proving very important for Leeds United. So,
well, since you bring up Leeds. Big up Leeds. I live in Leeds. Since you mentioned them, it's actually probably important because it wasn't so long ago we were talking about Daniel Farke. Well, we were actually having a conversation about who would it be first, Farke or Parker. Hey, that rhymes. And at the time, I think Leeds had lost 4 matches in a row, and they just lost 3-2 to Man City, which was a brilliant performance and actually showed a bit of grit and determination. But there seems to be something from that game, because since then they got 4 points against Chelsea and Liverpool. There's another draw here against Brentford, and only Chelsea and Manchester City have got points from the G-Tech Community Stadium this season. So it does seem that actually Leeds have turned a corner, and it seems to be Farke found a tactical system that worked better, and he's gone with it. Whereas this is the thing with Burnley. Burnley don't seem to have found, and specifically Parker hasn't seemed to have found any solutions yet.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to adapt to the Premier League, and the Premier League is a league that in which you don't have time to improve your teams generally. If you don't have a result, the sentences are clear. Scott Parker, I think he's a good manager. He did a really great season last season with Burnley in the Championship, but maybe the Premier League is too high for him.
Well, we see it across the continent, don't we?
Yeah.
There are managers in Spain and Italy that specialize in getting teams promoted from the second division, or specialize in keeping teams in the top division, as opposed to be able to progress any further.
We have our own in France too.
Yeah, right.
Ones,
they're everywhere.
Yeah, the ones when when a coach is sacked, that this list of potential replacement, there will be this name.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I just thought something to talk about later. So also probably we should move on, but a quick mention that Bournemouth played tonight, but only a few weeks ago they were in the European conversation, obviously part of that mass in the middle where just a couple of victories move you. Bournemouth are currently 15th. So talk about later. So Leeds United are 3 points ahead of West Ham, but only 4 points behind Bournemouth and Brentford and Fulham. Interesting. So let's park the Premier League there. I probably talked a bit too much about it. So let's move on to La Liga. So huge match on Friday where Real Sociedad lost at home 2-1 to relegation battling Girona. Girona came from behind actually to win 2-1 at Sociedad, 2 goals for Tiskanov, which meant that Girona. Oh, actually, I'll move on to the table later. But yeah, brilliant from Girona there. On Saturday, Atletico Madrid beat Valencia 2-1 to worsen Valencia's own relegation worries. Mallorca defeated Elche 3-1. That was a big victory as well. Barcelona 2, Osasuna 0. Osasuna actually were doing brilliantly. 0-0 at halftime, and then 2 goals from Rafinha in the second half. And then another victory for Espanyol, this time at Getafe, winning 1-0 there. And on Sunday, huge victory, Sevilla winning 4-0. Celta Vigo beat Athletic Club 2-0 as well. Rare victory for Real Madrid. Who would have thought? 2-1 at Alaves. It was 1-1 until the last 20-odd minutes where Rodrigo scored. That's a nice thing for him. His second goal in a week. The Levante-Villarreal game was postponed due to severe weather warning, and Rayo Vallecano-Real Betis play tonight. So probably a quick look at Real Madrid and the big hitters. So Real Madrid beating Alaves, 2-1 goal for Mbappe, for Rodrigo again, as I mentioned. It felt like they barely did enough, but at least they did enough this time, because in recent weeks they haven't.
Yeah, as you said, they are finally returned to winning ways. It was important for them. As it was for Xabi Alonso after another defeat in the Champions League against Manchester City. But to be honest, it was another difficult game for Real Madrid. Alaves played well, and Real Madrid didn't. But when you got Kylian Mbappe in your squad, we have said it numerous times in the past. Of course, it's an advantage. Yesterday, he scored his 70th goal for Real Madrid. So it's impressive, given that he's only been there for 1.5 years now. It says a lot about his importance in the squad, and I don't think people saying that he is the problem in the team are right, because how can he be a problem when he is the sole cure to this collective one? So exceptional from Mbappe, and it's good also for France in a year of a World Cup.
Oh God, France's squad is disgusting. Okay, then looking at Barcelona beating another very similar to Real Madrid, actually playing a team much further down the table than them. Although that's doing Alaves a bit of disservice. So Barcelona is struggling to a victory over Osasuna 2-0. Yeah, Hansi Flick spoke recently because obviously he reinstated Rafinha into the starting lineup in the last couple of weeks over Marcus Rashford, who obviously is having a terrific season. And he was asked about that, and he sort of stated that Marcus has shown the perfect mentality, because he's committed to actually trying to get back into the side, but also hasn't questioned the fact that Rafinha is back in the side, because obviously Rafinha had one of the best seasons any player's ever had last year. So it's almost like he didn't complain despite the fact he's played so well. So it does feel like Rafinha has historically earned the right to be there, although I don't want Mohamed Salah to get any ideas.
Of course, and Rafinha also has for him to be one of the captains of Barcelona, so his place is deserved, and he shows on the pitch that he deserves to be on it. I remember his substitution against Chelsea. He was one of the only Barcelona players to be really good. Then they played at home against I forgot their opponent last week. He also was decisive. He also proved decisive. This weekend he scored a brace. So he's, I will not say the spirit of Barcelona, because I think Barcelona is an entity that has a spirit in itself, but he's the one that incarnates what Flick wants from his team, and is invaluable for him.
Quick word on just let's look at the table first. So Barcelona are currently top on 43, Real Madrid second on 39, Villarreal are still third on 35, despite the fact they actually have 2 games in hand. Because their match against Levante was postponed. I was going to say, like, Villarreal, it's almost a shame, because they seem to be struggling in Europe in the midweek matches, but seem to excel in the league itself, in La Liga. So I suppose the worry is if they have too many matches to catch up on, that's a lot more midweek games they have to play, which, considering they don't have the biggest squad, seems slightly it's a disadvantage, I think. But then again, they also signed up to go to Miami, so they've only got themselves to blame. Atletico are 4th, 1 point behind them. But then in 5th place, your friends and mine, Espanyol. Espanyol are currently 6 points ahead of Real Betis in 6th place, although they do have a game in hand. Espanyol, let's have a quick word on them, because originally one of the stories of the season in La Liga has been Elche and the style of football they play and how impressive they've been. But Espanyol seem to have come from nowhere, and unlike Elche, actually seem to have consistency to challenge for Europe.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody expected Espanyol Barcelona to be that high in the league, because they haven't been like a really first team in the tables this past few years. They played in the second division, and they are doing a terrific job this season. They haven't played against all of the biggest opponents. I know that they will play, their next game is against Athletic Club, and then they will play Barcelona. I think the Atletico game will follow soon. So they will have to play against these big teams, and it will permit them, sorry, to see if they can have ambition, European ambition at the end of the season. But you have to praise what they have done so far. They are on a run of 4 consecutive wins, which is impressive. They have beaten Celta and Sevilla, who are 2 powerhouses this season. So yeah, interesting. And they will not play in the Copa del Rey because they have been eliminated, so it can be an advantage.
Fair point. Look at the bottom, Levante, game in hand, where they are bottom on 9 points behind Oviedo on 10. But more interestingly, there is this now real scrap, because I mentioned it before, Girona getting that win at Real Sociedad. Not only is that huge for Girona, but it's huge for Sociedad. So Girona are 18th on 15, level on points with Valencia, level on points with Osasuna, and 1 point behind Sociedad. So it felt like, so at one point about 3-4 weeks ago, it felt like Real Sociedad actually had turned a bit of a corner. They found some form, managed to pull away from the relegation zone, but they've been pulled. As soon as they think come out, they're pulling me back in. But yeah, they really have. They are still in trouble, as are Valencia.
Yeah, as you said, they got some good results in October and maybe until mid-November, but now they seem to falling back into what they have done on the early season. They have now lost 3 games in a row, including the problem is that they lost against Alaves and Girona, who are 2 teams they will compete with in order to stay in La Liga. So if they can't achieve to win those games, it will be even more complicated to win against Barcelona, Atletico, Real Madrid, and even Espanyol, Athletic Club. So they absolutely need to win these ones. And yeah, in January, they will face Atletico, Barcelona, and Athletic Club. So it's kind of worrying, the state of form.
Well, let's bid adios to La Liga and say buonasera to Serie A. So looking at Serie A, there were some big results here and very unpredictable results for some of the big lads getting bloody noses. So on Friday, Lecce eased their worries with a 1-0 victory over Pisa. On Saturday, what a victory for Torino. Just a little breath of relief for Torino, beating Cremonese 1-0. And then one of the 2 most bizarre matches in the entire weekend. More on that later in Ligue 1. Little teaser there. Parma lost at home 1-0 to Lazio, despite the fact Lazio were down to 9 men when they scored. Actually, I'll give you the details. Zaccagni was sent off at the end of the first half, so about the 42nd minute, so down to 10 men. And then Basic was sent off with about 15 minutes left to play, so down to 9 men. And then, for the sake of it, Noslin scored with about 8 minutes to play. So why not? Beating Parma with 9 men. It's quite impressive, really. Atalanta, the rebuild starts now. Beat Cagliari 2-1. A couple of goals for Scamacca. On Sunday, AC Milan, at the time the league leaders, stumbled against the promoted Sassuolo 2-2. In fact, in AC Milan were leading 2-1 with about 15 minutes to go before Sassuolo equalised. So, yeah, they could beat the big teams, but they struggle against the smaller teams, AC Milan.
Yeah.
And Fiorentina, the heartbreak continues. Lost at home against the team immediately above them, Hellas Verona. Hellas Verona winning 2-1 in Florence. It was 1-1 until the 3rd minute stoppage time, where Orban scored his 2nd goal for Verona. And that win pulls them 6 points clear of Fiorentina. Fiorentina now 8 points from safety. Probably the biggest shot of the round, though, Udinese 1, Napoli 0. Udinese were causing issues for the big teams earlier on in the season, but they're doing it again. Ecclethorpe, scoring the only goal there. Napoli, not a single shot on target in this match. Genoa 1, Inter 2, with goals from Bisek and Lautaro Martinez, gave Inter the victory there, winning where their city sakes could not. And Bologna 0, Juventus 1, Cabal with the only goal. There was a red card in there for Bologna as well. And Roma and Como play tonight. My money's on a 0-0. Yeah, so big match. Let's start with the Napoli game because you and I were again texting during the week. We tend to chat. And questioning why Antonio Conte's sides across the board have been awful in Europe for all of his sides, all of his league winners. They've always been terrible in Europe. And we've always talked about sort of perhaps it's the not wanting to rotate and thingy. But now it's kind of leaking into the league form a little bit because in the last sort of 3 weeks there have been a couple of really disappointing results, and this is a poor one, not a single shot on target against Udinese.
Yeah, Napoli are just unbeatable when they play at the Maradona, but have much more room for improvements when they are away from home. They have already lost 4 games, which is obviously too much for a title contender. And it has been for them. It has been a tough week because you've mentioned Conte's squad sides in Europe. They have lost to Benfica midweek. They are not first in the league when they were 3 weeks ago. Of course, they are just trailing 2 points behind Inter and 1 behind Milan, but it's another defeat. And all just to say that all the defeat this season have come when they played away from home. So this is really what they need to fix in 2026.
We should probably remind people that they are suffering quite a big injury crisis as well. So inevitably, with again talk about lack of rotation, inevitably there's going to be a bit of tiredness there. Inter doing Inter things against a sort of like a fairly easy 2-1 victory at Genoa, and they leap over AC Milan to the top of the table. Whereas Napoli seem to struggle from the midweek action, but again injuries taken into consideration. Inter seem to just continue sort of consistently across the board.
Yeah, they are. They have win the most games in the Serie A this season. We noticed their incredible attacking depth last week, and it has been confirmed again this weekend with this win.
Strange question. Assuming everybody's fit, who has the strongest squad? Would you say Inter or Napoli? Because Napoli had a wonderful summer of transfer recruitment.
Yeah, I would tend to say Napoli, but maybe Inter are more experienced. Like they are playing together since maybe a long time
1954,
ago.
Considering.
Yeah, no, but especially the big names in the squad. When you have, for example, on your attacking line, Marcus Thuram and Lautaro Martinez for now 2, 3, 4 seasons, it obviously help to score games in the fact that they understand each other on the pitch, and they have also Mkhitaryan, who has been here for I don't know how long, Nicolo Barella. The only problem I see in this Inter squad is the defense. I think they will need to buy a player, a central defender during the Mercato, because Acerbi is getting old, and the other defenders they got, I think they are not the ones you can really win a title with without an experienced or top class player, except from, of course, Bastoni, who is
maybe. And to be fair, DiMarco is one of the more sort of sought after left fullbacks, wing backs.
Yeah, but once again, we have to say that Chivu has done a terrific job at Inter, because it was really difficult to succeed Inzaghi, given his light experience on a bench, on a bench like Inter, especially. So praise to him. And
strange thing to say, actually, but I suppose looking back at it, because obviously Inzaghi played such an interesting brand of football at Inter, and Inter obviously got to 2 Champions League finals across 3 seasons. But we think you look back over the last 3-4 years, and you do wonder, should Inter have actually won more, because they only won 1 league title in those 4 seasons, and 2 Champions League finals, which is impressive itself. But also, there wasn't, considering they were definitely the strongest team in Italy across the board. You do think maybe they've missed something. We should probably talk about AC Milan across the Milan threshold. Because they stumbled at home against Sassuolo, and again, this is something we spoke about often. They managed to beat all the teams around them. They've beaten Inter, they've beaten Napoli and Roma. These really impressive victories, and yet they keep dropping points against teams mid-table, lower table. It seems to be a real problem, and it's not as if they can't break these teams down. These aren't 0-0s. They just seem to keep conceding goals, and it's quite sloppy.
Yeah, and especially at home, where Milan should win the most points. It's I think it's a deceiving result, especially given if they had won this one, they could have took the lead on the league. So disappointing result to draw against Sassuolo. Sassuolo is a team. We don't really know how to talk about this team. They can play Europe, but are they good enough to do it? We don't really know. But
before they got relegated a couple of seasons ago, they were basically every big team's bogey team. They have no right to, and they did play Europe a couple of times, but they have no right to play Europe. It's such a small place. It's a fantastic club, and I think it did break people's hearts when they did get relegated. But it's so great that they're back. So looking at the top of Serie A, Inter are top on 33, AC Milan next on 32, Napoli 31, Roma next on 27, though they do have a game in hand, which they're playing against Como tonight. And then Juventus,
which has just started.
Yes. Well, like I say, my money's on a 0-0, considering they are the 2 best defenses across the whole of Europe. But yeah, maybe not. Maybe it'd be 3-3. It'd be great. But down the bottom, we always seem to leave on a note for Fiorentina. 8 points from safety, 4 points behind Pisa in 19th place. So even if Fiorentina win their first game of the season, they will stay bottom.
Yeah.
If they win 2 matches in a row, they will still be in the relegation zone. What else can change? Because they've changed managers. So what else can they do apart from, I don't know, we get to the January transfer market and work miracles? But then again, they already invested heavy money this summer.
Maybe change again their manager. And I've read something in the La Gazzetta dello Sport today, talking about the possible dismissal of Paolo Vanoli, so the successor of Pioli at the head of the club. So nothing is going right for Fiorentina.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, and Florence is filled with desperate people currently. Right, we'll leave Serie A there and trot on over to the Bundesliga, where I know we've had some sort of predictable chats about the Bundesliga these weeks, but this was a very unpredictable week, very fun week. Although it makes no bit of difference to the title race. On Friday, RB Leipzig, possibly the most informed side in Europe, lost at Union Berlin 3-1. It was 0-0 at half-time, actually. But 3-1, Union Berlin ended up winners. On Saturday, Borussia Mönchengladbach, their good form has ceased. They lost at home 3-1 to Wolfsburg, who were, again, real relegation fears, but they've turned around a couple of really important victories. Frankfurt beat Augsburg 1-0. Hoffenheim beat Hamburger 4-1 at home. It was 4-0 actually with 10 minutes to go before a late consolation for Hamburg. Great performance there from Hoffenheim. St. Pauli won 2-1 against Heidenheim. A victory for St. Pauli.
They finally won.
Yeah, good for them. Although against relegation rivals as well, but even sweeter. The only team in the top 4 to win by Leverkusen, beating Köln 2-0 with goals from Terrier and Andrich. And then on Sunday, Freiburg held Borussia Dortmund to a 1-1 draw. Joe Bellingham getting a red card and allowing Freiburg to equalise late on. Bayern Munich left it late to draw at home against Mainz. Bottom of the table, Mainz 2-2. And then Werder Bremen 0, Stuttgart 4. They were 2-0 up before Koulibaly got a second yellow card and then ran riot at the end. So it's funny, this rather than speak out general team, it's quite funny that the 3 occasions that Bayern Munich have dropped points this season, every single one of those weeks, Dortmund and Leipzig or Leverkusen have also dropped points. So at no point has anybody even attempted to catch up to Munich because everyone, they doesn't seem to grasp the opportunity. But having said that, very important that Bayer stay in this because at one point it looked like they were slipping behind Dortmund and Leipzig in this Champions League fight. But it's very important for them to keep touch because it's currently between Leipzig in 2nd and Hoffenheim in 5th is only 3 points. And those 3 points is a lot of money.
Yeah, the race for the Champions League, it's fire in Bundesliga because there is obviously Leipzig, Dortmund, and Leverkusen. But if you take a look at the table, Hoffenheim are also 26, Stuttgart at 25, and Frankfurt 24. So it's really cool to see this kind of race. But I wanted to insist on the feat that Mainz achieved against Bayern Munich because it's never easy to play at the Allianz Riviera. Not Allianz Riviera. Sorry, it's the name of the Nice stadium. What is the name of the stadium of Bayern Munich?
Allianz
Riviera. Yeah, sorry.
It's hard to keep track because there's an Allianz Arena, there's an Allianz Stadium, there's an Allianz. So like,
and
so
in
one's
Nice
Juve,
it's Allianz Riviera, so too much Allianz.
Yeah, and there's one in Dublin as well. I think it's the Allianz.
Yeah, no, is it not Aviva? No, Aviva Stadium in Dublin.
No. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Twickenham. There's an Allianz in the UK somewhere. I forget which one. But it sponsors a lot. It's a lot of stadiums are Allianz based. But let's take people through that match then. So Munich took the lead through young Karl again. He's having the season of his life before Mainz equalised just for half time. But then Mainz took the lead in the second half, and it took a late Harry Kane penalty to save it for Bayern Munich. So Mainz performed admirably, actually. And unlike Wolves, they did hold on for at least a point.
Yeah, and it wasn't expected, of course, for them. But unlike Wolves, they got 7 points. So, which is really different. If they win a game, they will be in the race with St. Pauli, Heidenheim, even Augsburg to avoid relegation. But no, it's obviously a superb result for them. But the fact is that Bayern also managed to avoid their first defeat in this season of Bundesliga.
And in fact, they extended their lead at the top, despite the fact they drew against the side bottom of the league.
Which is Bundesliga. So it's a shame that neither Leipzig or Dortmund could win this weekend. And
for context, had Leipzig won at Union Berlin, they would have narrowed the gap to 6 points. As opposed to what it is now, which is 9. Now, of course, like 6 points is still huge, especially when you're chasing Bayern. But again, my point exactly that the 3 times that Bayern have dropped points, at no point have they been put under pressure. At no point has been, the gap's only 3 points. The gap's only no. And it's just, and somehow they drop points and still extend their lead. Speaking of which, we should probably talk about Borussia Dortmund because they did take the lead against Freiburg through Benta Baini. But then sort of a completely unnecessary Joe Bellingham red card early in the second half kind of ruined things for that. And Höller equalised late on for Freiburg. Does this count as Dortmund tripping themselves over again? Or is this a case of them just having a young player starting in the lineup and sort of not quite reaching the levels expected yet?
The thing we can say is that it's been a difficult start of adventure for Job Bellingham at Dortmund, not only on the pitch, but he had some issues with his parents trying to get involved in the management of their son, which, in my opinion, isn't the best thing to do to get some close people. Yeah. Or Bellingham is a older brother, because we've heard things about that. But Dortmund are so, every season they missed opportunities to close the gap with Bayern, and it's once again it proved true against Freiburg, which are a good team in the Bundesliga, but they are not playing relegation, but they are not playing the race to Europe. They struggled. Seru Guirassy didn't score once again. So
that does seem to be the way, doesn't it? They do seem to struggle for goals if Guirassy doesn't contribute either assist or goal. They seem to struggle to find them from elsewhere.
And Adeyemi, who had been really great these past weeks, has only played for a couple of minutes. So it wasn't their game to win, I think.
Fair. Right. Well, let's say Auf Wiedersehen to the Bundesliga and nip on over to France for the last stop. Why not? So Ligue 1 indeed, and possibly the most insane match I've ever had to try and get all the details down for. More on that later. On Friday, Angers defeated Nantes 4-1 to ease their worries and actually gone off them to like lower mid-table. On Saturday, Rennes did a treble over Brest, which sounds like a KFC order. Yes, Rennes 3, Brest 1. Brest actually took the lead early on before Rennes rallied. Metz 2, Paris Saint-Germain 3. What a fun match that was. What an effort from bottom of the table Metz. They are fun, but they're still last. Paris FC 0, Toulouse 3. That was an easy win there for the victory there. And on Sunday, Lyon, finally, another victory. 1-0 over Le Havre. Is it just Schulk scored the only goal there? Auxerre against Lille. We'll come on to that in a bit. I'm going to give it its own space there. Lens to Nice 0. A nice victory over Nice. Of course, Nice are terrible. And again, that's something else we spoke about midweek.
A new defeat.
We can make a prediction. But yes, Lens winning a couple of goals there from Edouard. Strasbourg 0, Lorient 0. Happened. And Marseille went back to winning ways with a 1-0 victory over Monaco. Mason Greenwood getting the only goal in that game. So let's start with top of the table. Lens, still top of the table, 1 point ahead of Paris Saint-Germain. And a Nice easy victory today. Yesterday, rather. So it was fairly effortless. It did seem that they could actually almost take their foot off the gas a little bit. With like I said, Edouard's getting a goal either side of half time. It was nice for Lens not to have to be too intense with this match, considering they are playing the long game.
Yeah, they are. And today they are guaranteed to spend the holidays at the top of Ligue 1, because for those who don't know, it's the break in France. So I think Ligue 1 will resume in 3 weeks now. So it's unbelievable for a team like Lens to get in front of PSG. If they win the next game, there will be, that's what we call in France the autumn champion, so the mid-season champion, which hasn't happened for them since the 2001-2002 season. So credit to Pierre Sage, to the whole club for what they have been doing. Nice, they are in a terrible situation. Week after week, they lose games. In Ligue 1, as in Europa League. Their supporters went to the training center 2 weeks ago and assaulted players, being victims of racist insults. So, which is obviously terrible. They don't seem to have, sometimes we've been talking about Wolves earlier in the show, and maybe Wolves can use this defeat to to build something on. But Nice, there is no positive points to their games. We don't know how and when they will finally stop losing. And yeah, I think it's the best time of the season to play against them.
Yeah. So Paris Saint-Germain still looking. So they're second place on 36. Do you think they deserve credit for this victory over Metz? Because Metz, as we've seen in the last month or so, can put up a fight. But also Paris Saint-Germain perhaps rotated a bit too much. Still, I mean, they've got some wonderful teenagers, but obviously, if you have Mbaye, is it Mbaye? Getting a couple of assists, he's only 18. It feels like they may have They may have rotated a bit too much.
Yeah, they rotated a lot, but let's not forget, or if you don't know, they will play the Intercontinental final against Flamengo in 2 days or 3 days in Qatar.
Straight into the final. I thought they had to play the semi first.
No, maybe wait,
because the Intercontinental one, and before the new Club World Cup, it used to be that the European winner would join at the semi-final.
No, it's the final.
That seems a bit pointless.
Yeah, I think it's like the old Club World Cup.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. But I'm saying, like, the European champions used to go in at the semi-final. At least have a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah,
that seems silly.
Yeah, that's
no.
Because Flamengo.
Sorry, I'm being an old man, sort of grumbling. No, but if you're going to make it an Intercontinental Cup, at least make it worthwhile.
Yeah. So of course they rotated the team. Metz, who have been performing rather well in recent weeks, winning games finally after a terrible start of the season. But Metz, maybe they have tried to play too hard and were punished to it, because even if there were a lot of youngsters in PSG squad, they got some experienced player.
I should probably point out as well, at no point were Metz level. So Paris Saint-Germain were 2-0 up, Metz pulled a goal back, then they were 3-1 up, and then Metz pulled another goal back. So the game state was always that Paris Saint-Germain were ahead, but that seemed to be when Metz actually played their best football, was when they were forced to come forward.
Yeah. And which is interesting at PSG is that they invested a lot this summer in bringing in Lucas Chevalier as a replacement for Donnarumma. And he's not the starting goalkeeper for now. No? It's been Safonov, because his performances are deceiving. And Safonov has been delivering good performances too. So interesting to see the development of this competition between both. And PSG also, we have to note that Désiré Doué, who have been injured for weeks now, he made his return in the Champions League on Wednesday, and he scored against Metz, so it's a good thing for PSG and also for France, of course. So it's a good victory for Paris.
Yeah. Also, there's also something very satisfying having a goalkeeper called Safe Enough. Well, written down anyway. So we're going to leave. Yes, we're going to leave with telling you the story of Auxerre versus Lille. Gather around the fireside, everybody. So it goes like this. Lille opened the scoring through Haraldsson, 1-0. And then just at the end of the first half, Ngoy gets sent off. Okay, so 1-0 up, down to 10 men, and that's half time. Relax, everybody. And then in the 57th minute, Sinayoko equalizes for Auxerre, 1-1. And then Akbar gets a second yellow card and is sent off for Auxerre. Now it's 1-1. Both sides have 10 men. And then Chancel Mbemba scores an own goal 6 minutes later. Auxerre lead 2-1. And then, with 12 minutes to go, Bentaleb equalizes 2-2. Auxerre 2, Lille 2. And then 3 minutes later, Diwan scores for Lille. 3-2 to Lille. And then 3 minutes after that, 3 minutes after that, Sinayoko scores an equalizing penalty. 3-3. And then 3 minutes after that, Andre scores a fourth goal for Lille. It's now 4-3 for Lille. And then 2 minutes after that, El Ouzazi for Auxerre and Perraud for Lille are both sent off. So both teams are down to 9 men. It's 4-3 to Lille. Yeah. And that is the end of my tale. Although it's quite funny that Lille scored 4 goals, had 2 men sent off, and only had 5 shots on target. So it's quite a strange match. So let's leave there. Let's Ligue 1 there. So Lille won 4-3 at Auxerre, which means that at the top of Ligue 1 was Lens, Paris Saint-Germain, 4 points behind Paris Saint-Germain are Marseille after their victory. They are level on points with Lille, who seem to have really built up a head of steam. And there is now a 5-point gap between Lille in 4th and Lyon in 5th, who are level on points with Rennes. And then 4 points behind them are Strasbourg, Toulouse, and Monaco down in 9th place. Right.
And
that's all the league.
I just have something for you. I know you like statistics.
Oh, wait. So, pretend it's a trivial trivia at the bottom.
It is not. It is not because
it's not trivia. It's just
you will never find the answer. But no, because it's a statistic extremely precise. You've talked about the fact that Manchester City scored 3, 4. How many X goals?
I think it was 1.21.
Okay. Lille scored 4 goals, with only 0.47 X goals.
No, Lille.
So
well, chaos.
0.1 X goal per goal. So impressive.
What the hell was Auxerre's goalkeeper doing? And John, we don't have time. We don't have time to pick that apart. Right. 3 things we may have missed. I would like to talk about Scottish football.
Yeah, me too.
The first trophy of the season in Britain was the Scottish League Cup final, St Mirren versus Celtic, and St Mirren won 3-1. If you don't know who St Mirren are, there's no reason why you would. It's a small place. I think it's called Paisley, which is like southwest of Glasgow. But yeah, won the Scottish League Cup, which is enormous. It's their first trophy in 12 years when they beat Celtic in the Scottish League Cup final, and only their 5th trophy ever in 130 years, which is fantastic. But yeah, I thought I'd mention that because there's something beautiful in Scottish football at the moment, because Celtic are pretty bad, Rangers are awful, which means there are other things happening for all these other clubs, which is very, very fun. What would you like to contribute? 3 things we may have missed.
And thank you for that, because I can bounce back on it and to say that, of course, Wilfried Nancy has been appointed to the Celtic bench now less than 2 weeks.
In the MLS?
Yeah, in the for the Columbus Crew.
Columbus Crew. Okay.
Yeah, and he, following reports, he is already under pressure at Celtic after only 2 weeks.
Well, so it does seem a bit mad, doesn't it? Because Martin O'Neill, and for those who don't know, Martin O'Neill is a legendary Celtic manager, but he last managed them about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. He is in his 70s now. But he came in, I think he won every game apart from one. I think it's like 6 wins, 1 draw. He sort of steadied the ship. Celtic have caught up to Hearts in the Premiership table. They righted the ship, and then Nancy's come in. They've lost to Hearts. They lost to Roma 3-0. They just lost to St Mirren in the League Cup final. So there were a lot of people asking, why didn't they just keep O'Neill for another couple of weeks? Because he was doing a good job.
Difficult to say. And it should be noted that Nancy has lost his first game in charge of the hoops. So, of course, it helps. And to finish... Sorry?
Only scored once. They've only scored once, I think, as well in 3 matches. They've
Maybe.
They've conceded 8 times, and I think they've scored once.
Terrible record. And to finish with the things you may have missed, I wanted to travel to Italy, where Sampdoria, if you followed last summer,
their impossible relegation story.
Yeah, they were saved from Serie C last summer, and unfortunately, they are having a difficult start of the season. They are currently 19th in the table. They have only won 3 games after 3 wins after 16 games, and so they are in danger of relegation. So, if this were to happen, it would be historic, because this club is historic, and they have never played so low in the Italian landscape. So difficult times.
Troubling times for some former glorious clubs like Fiorentina and Sampdoria. I've got one more just in case you've missed it. Just another shout out to the Jamaican centre back Richard King's been a great signing for St Mirren. Yeah, he absolutely has. I mean, the manager has done a terrific job as well. I think he was at Motherwell before then, but he seems to get so much out of his players in such a difficult situation where you're constantly outperformed by the big Edinburgh and Glaswegian clubs. But yeah, it's a good shout, that. Yeah, so I've just got a quick little thing about, because I mentioned a few weeks ago about Coventry in the Championship in England, England's second tier. Frank Lampard's Coventry, the lead at the top has been cut to only 5 points. But I would just like to say that the top 2 spots are automatic promotion. They are currently 12 points ahead of third place. So Coventry and Middlesbrough are looking pretty sweet to go back to the Premier League, which is great because neither of them have been in the Premier League for a long time. Very exciting. Right, and finally, trivial trivia. Fun times.
That's your time.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you have anything? Because I have a minor one.
I don't. So go on.
Okay. So I've only got this for a couple of countries without being able to verify it. What club? Because obviously AFCON is starting very shortly. Very exciting competition. It's always great fun to watch AFCON. Genuinely, if you love chaos football, watch AFCON. It's fantastic fun. Which European club, top league European club, is going to lose the most players to AFCON?
It should be in France.
Yeah. Yes, I insist it should be.
Yeah. No. Maybe Lorient. I think they will miss 6 or 7 players.
That's a very good shout, sir.
Yeah.
You are correct. Lorient tied 7 with Marseille. Apparently Marseille are losing 7 as well.
Yeah, Metz also will miss some players.
Do you know who I have in third place though? Apparently it's Sunderland.
Okay.
They're going to lose 6 players. At what point, depending on, because we didn't have all the qualifiers, at one point they were going to lose 9 were shortlisted. But yeah, 6. And Sunderland lose 6, which is ironic because they just beat Newcastle, who aren't losing any. Anyway, so AFCON begins shortly. The Intercontinental Cup happens. Wait, that's a thing. Thank you everybody for joining us once more. It's been great. It's been great fun. Lovely having you all here. We will be back next week. The French league may be taking a break, but we do not. We continue.
Yeah, never.
And actually, maybe we'll run at a decent time for once. Yeah, thank you so much, Leo, for joining us.
Thank you, Daniel.
And thank you everybody for watching. It's been lovely. Once again, check out the X/Twitter/ whatever it is. Look, find us on YouTube. Yeah, all of that. I will see you next time. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, Daniel.
Au revoir. Adieu.
Au revoir.